Here.
McGinn.
Here.
Science.
Here.
Mormon.
Here.
Pickla.
Here.
Stecker. Here. Ray.
Here. Okay, number 2, approval of agenda. Any changes, Your Honor? No changes this evening. Motion to approve. Second. Call roll.
McGinn.
Yes.
Science.
Yes.
Mormon.
Yes.
Pickla.
Yes.
Stecker. Yes. Ray.
Yes.
Bird.
Yes. Okay, number 3, presentation petitions and other communications. A, tax abatement appeals. The council has had time now to look at all the questions that were sent out. And I'm going to offer you, do you have anything additional you want to add? Or I'll open it up for council discussion.
I think you can all hear me without the mic.
Yeah.
I don't have any new factual information to offer. I just want to, I guess, beat the same drum. I think our case is pretty straightforward and simple. We followed all of the steps you would follow to make ourselves aware of the tax abatement program, and up into including a letter from the building official that said these particular lots were available for tax abatement. And we used that information to make our decision to purchase a lot there versus one a block over on Hancock Drive. So say the straightforwardness and simplicity of it makes me think I'm missing something, but it's just that simple. That we gained the information necessary in a timely manner, and obviously we think that we did all the right things.
A question I know that's going to come up, so I may as well just ask it. I've had a hard time with this, and I think the council, when we had discussion last, with our development agreement with Tri-West, it was clearly stated that you were supposed to have a receipt, or we were to receive a receipt that stated that you were clearly understood that there were no city. Were you told city money was not available?
No, we never were, neither by the developer or the real estate agent.
Because the issue I have with this, I don't know, I mean, I feel like, and this is no disrespect, I'm just looking at the facts, we never, as the city, when we have a development agreement with somebody, we feel like that should be followed, and if there's no record or anything, that's clearly between you and the developer and not the city, because in our development agreement, it clearly says that there's no city funds available. And I understand the letter you got from Ed Higgins.
Well, but to your point, my case is not with the developer. You folks are the ones denying me the abatement.
Correct.
You're the one that administers the abatement.
Right.
If you rule in our favor and feel like you need to be reimbursed, then you obviously have a choice as to what you want to do with it beyond that. But, my case is with the city.
And if I may, ask a question to you folks. You say that you can't do this, you shouldn't do it, but you've already set the precedent and have done it before with our neighbors.
No, we have not. Your case is unique because the previous cases was when the agreement was not ratified, and then when another time it was a partial because it got approved by council. In this case, council never approved your abatement.
Well,
And I feel like there's some, here's what I don't understand is why someone can't produce to us a receipt that said you were either told, I don't know if you were told or not told. I mean, they say they told you and you say they didn't. I try to put faith.
we did not get a receipt.
You know, it's hard to prove a negative. I can't prove that I didn't get it because I didn't get it. You would have to ask, the other parties to show proof that they did. And as far as, for whatever reason the precedent has been set, it has been set. And the only way I would have of checking that is to look at the public available records, the assessor's office, that says that those two properties that were built on prior to us buying had the tax abatement. There's nothing in there about how it happened or why it happened, but the fact is it happened. So that is a precedent that we relied on when we made our decision.
The precedent you're stating does not pertain to your case because it is not the same case.
I understand that,
And
but how would I know the case in which you?
And to go back to not providing a negative if you don't have it. You say the developer never gave you the, you also state that you never received the letters that we show that we sent you. You also don't claim anything of the $5,000 discount that you received. When our timeline, in my opinion, shows that was received because the developer full well knew that you were not eligible for any of our abatements.
No, you're making a misstatement because we
No.
did tell you that we did get the $5,000 from the developer.
But you also stated that had nothing to do with anything
That's correct.
correct that we're talking about. My opinion is, as being a part of this, is that that $5,000 discount happened because the developer knew there was no abatements available. There was nothing available because that developer had come in and specifically asked to be a part of that agreement for the additional $10,000 in abatement, additional incentives, and we denied it. And as soon as that same timeline happened, then you guys received a $5,000 discount, and then then you move forward with your building.
That was with the developer.
That was with the developer.
That was his incentive, if you will, since you've used that term before, to sell the lots.
Council?
I have no further questions. I'm going to make a motion that we deny the abatement appeals for the Brevards, and we need a separate thing. I will also make a separate a motion after this following for the civil ones. So I'm making a motion to deny the tax abatement appeal for the Brevard property.
Second. Call the roll.
Steins,
Yes.
Mormon,
Yes.
Pickla,
Yes.
Stecker. Yes. Ray,
Yes.
Bird,
Yes.
McGinn,
Abstain. I make a motion to deny the tax abatement appeal for the Silvermore property.
Second. Call the roll.
Mormon,
Yes.
Pickla,
Yes.
Stecker. Yes. Ray,
Yes.
Bird,
Yes.
McGinn,
Abstain.
Steins,
Yes.
Okay, next up, the annual tax increase finance update from Maggie Spears.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Maggie Berger with Spear Financial. I appreciate this. We are doing all of our TIF report deliveries socially distanced this year, so thank you for having me on electronically. I do believe you've been provided those colorful pages that we have looked at before, so we'll just briefly walk through. I won't take much of your time. The one change on the red pages is we did refund the 2011 bonds out this spring. The 2020 bonds are now listed on page 1. That was a 3.28% interest rate in 2011, which was great at the time. We were able to secure a 1.4835% interest rate. So we've provided that information. We've given the council the total principal and interest outstanding on all of your general obligation debt. The total principal outstanding right now is $5,025,000. Page 2 of that very first section does talk about how you pay this debt down. You use TIF revenues, sewer revenues, stormwater revenues, water revenues, and a portion of road use tax. The very far right column is where we tell you what you are levying in the debt service each and every year when you budget in the springtime. You're levying for fiscal year 22 approximately the same amount as you were levying in fiscal year 21, a little bit less, partially due to that 2011 bond getting a little refunding and some interest savings for you. We go on to the orange pages. This is where we talk about the revenue debt you have outstanding. The city does have 2 sewer revenue debts outstanding, the 2012 and the 2016. I remind you, the revenue debt does not count against the city's debt capacity, but it must be paid with the revenues of the system or other revenues. In this case, towards the far right, you've got, instead of an orange colored column, you've got a yellow colored column. The city does bring in TIF revenues to help buy down. And part of that was part of your increase or need for sewer revenue debt was because you were going to be issuing for something in the TIF district, growth in the TIF districts, things that were new. So we felt that that was something that could definitely be accomplished with some TIF revenues for the repayment. We go on to your purple pages. These are where we talk about the TIF rebate obligations. The city has 4 rebate obligations outstanding. 2 of the 4, Boulders and the Tri-West development, will start repayments in fiscal year 21, which is the current fiscal year that we're in. So you will see the number for the rebate amount in both of those slightly different than the remaining numbers throughout the rest of their repayment. How we do these is until we know a first payment amount, until we know how much increment is available to make that first payment amount, we just take what the not to exceed amount is and we put it over the 10-year, the 15-year, the 20-year schedule to just break that out evenly. Once we start to know, for example, on Tri-West, that in fiscal year 21, the collection or the rebate to the developer is going to be approximately $7,000. We do fill that out in fiscal year 21. We will kind of get the same information going forward each and every year. You may or may not hit your not to exceed number. It really will depend on those developments and how quickly that valuation is added on. You also have 2 other rebate obligations. One will not start until 2022. So we have just an estimate at this point in time. And again, it's a simple division by the not to exceed and the number of years. And the other will be 2023 is our assumption at this point in time. Again, based on when that development's going to hit the tax rolls. All of the debt through all of the debt through your rebate obligations is annually appropriated at this point in time, which means only the amount that you are going to pay annually is what counts against the debt capacity. We go on to our yellow pages, and we do break the yellow pages out by TIF district. We notice that the yellow pages are what represent the amount of debt in the original bonds that is being paid with TIF. So on the red pages, we have the full schedule. These yellow pages may still be the full schedule, but may be an abbreviated schedule for the portion being paid with TIF. So in the Southeast TIF district, part of the 20 and part of the 2013 are being paid with TIF to the tune of about $115,000 a year. The West Central has those sewer revenue bonds in it, the 12 and the 16. The Southwest and Southeast district also have a portion of those sewer revenue bonds. So altogether, you're transferring about $568,000 to the sewer fund or to the sewer debt service fund every year to pay that debt. We bring in your tax increment rebate agreements, and this year you will certify approximately $839,974 in the TIF district. And again, that will be based on all of the obligations that you have via GO, via revenue and rebate obligations. We go on then to our green pages, and we're going to look at column number 2. And that column number 2 is fiscal year 21, which we're in. We always give you column number 1 is history. This is where we talk about debt capacity. The city has an actual property valuation of $762 million. That is quite a growth over last year. At the bottom of column number 1, you will see that the city grew by 8.19%. That's just phenomenal growth. That gives you a statutory debt limit of $38,107,000. As we mentioned on the page 1 of the red pages, you have $5,025,000 of debt outstanding right now. You're going to pay about $44,000 in TIF rebates. You're also going to pay back $710,000 in debt. So that's principal that's being paid back. That leaves you with a debt capacity or remaining capacity of $33,792,000, or about 88%. That's just a phenomenal number for the size of the community that you are and for the growth that you've experienced. If we take off a contingency reserve, meaning that we don't think it's probably in your best interest to ever issue more than 80% of your debt capacity. If we take that $7.6 million off, that leaves you still with $26,170,000. I don't think the city has any plans to get near touching that number, but I think that that's a phenomenal number and has grown over the years as you've been very conservative with your debt issuances. We have given you a 2% growth rate, and that does go on for 2 pages. And last but not least are our blue pages. I'm going to go through the first one, the Southeast District, because that's the most active. And then I'm going to give just a couple of highlights as you can read the rest of them, because we do break it out by all the TIF districts. The Southeast District, looking at column number 2, I remember these blue pages are any increment that has grown over and above the base value in the TIF district. So you have $58 million of increment in commercial property, $29 million of industrial property, about $148 million of residential property, and about $8.2 million of multi-residential property. We do take back the rollbacks. I would assume, because the frozen base value of this area is $198 million. Likely the county is taking the rollback out of that. But to be conservative, our numbers do give the rollback. So that leaves you with TIF taxable valuation of approximately $167 million. The TIF tax rate this year is $33.90. That produces about $5,686,000 of TIF receipts annually. For the GO debt, you're collecting approximately $116,000 from the Southeast. You're collecting for the revenue debt, meaning the sewer revenue debt, approximately sewer revenue debt approximately $345,000, and then the rebate obligations are actually out of this TIF district as well. This does go on for a couple of pages. Unclaimed dollars, again, the money that you do not collect is rolling back into the cities, the counties, and the school districts fund. So we're not telling you to go out and claim the unclaimed, because it will have a very negative impact on your budget as well. This district did grow by 26%. It does go on for 2 pages. Again, I'm just going to give some highlights. The Southwest District actually grew by 16%, which was just a phenomenal growth rate. You do have some of that sewer revenue debt that is attributable to that, and that goes on for a couple of pages. The West Central was, I think, a good surprise for both Andrea and myself. This one, you have debt outstanding. You've had debt outstanding in the West Central for a number of years. And at this point in time, there's been enough growth, 94% of growth from last year, that now it appears there should be enough TIF receipts to make those debt payments in full, which is fantastic. That's great news. We've kind of been waiting for that district to come on, and we've really started to see great residential growth in that area. The South Boone Housing District also saw significant growth, about 150%. So even though it's not paying for its own debt right at the moment, we'll say, it's getting close. We've gone and knocked away part of that debt payment every year, which is just phenomenal. And the Northeast District continues to grow at a small pace of about 0.3%, but there is no debt outstanding in the Northeast District at this time. Whole lot of information in a short amount of time. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Questions, anybody?
Thanks for the great news, Maggie.
Thanks, Maggie.
Thank you, and you guys keep up the good work. It looks very good for the city of Boone. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 4, report of standing committee, policy administration, BJ.
No report.
Public safety, Stephen.
No report, but we'll have a public safety meeting, I think we have a very agenda on
30th at 4:30. Okay, next, utility committee, Stephen.
Okay, PDM's bill and approved invoice, you'll see an invoice in front of you, and, this is related to an incident that happened a few weeks ago. I'll just let Dale kind of give a little update about what it was and how we got to this.
Sure, thank you, Stephen. First of all, I got a call at home from Terry Goodman. He's here today from PDM, letting us know about the mistake. This was really important. I appreciate him doing that because it really allowed us to get ahead of this right away. And so I contacted Dan, and a lot of this from here on is technical, so I'm going to give it to Dan, and he can explain.
All right. Yeah, so kind of good news, bad news here. Bad news is that the word came to us kind of late in the day, so it was difficult for us to address the issue. Basically, there was a little over 1,700 gallons of canola oil that accidentally was spilled into the sanitary sewer. And again, we do appreciate being notified of that because it's difficult to process oil. It came late in the day, so staff had to work all night to just rake this stuff out of the stream up the headwork of the plant. We raked out about 2 dumpsters of grease and oil. A lot of it did go through the plant, which, like I said, is hard to process, but we were able to save the plant. We did get through it in the end, but there is a cost associated with this, and we did talk about this at the utility committee. The city code allows for $1.23 a pound to be charged for processing oil, and that's what we're doing here. So we are looking to charge that plus some of the overtime costs for that. So, anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to take those.
The committee did discuss it last week, and we did ask for the staff to put this together so that we had an idea of how much labor was involved in this and that. And I want to reiterate that we do appreciate that we were notified quickly about it, but we can't overlook the fact that it caused problems in the system. We did have to spend some money time and effort to get this cleaned up. We're also allowed to impose a fine on them as well, which would have been another option, which we chose not to do the fine. The fine probably would also entail, we have to notify the DNR and do all that stuff too. So this was the idea that we had come up with. We asked for an amount, and it was our recommendation that once we had this number, that we would like to charge this PDM to our costs. So, if there's any other questions from what we discussed in that?
Just so you know the magnitude of this, they emptied what, 4 dumpsters? 2 dumpsters by hand. They filled 2 dumpsters of grease and oil off the street to get rid of, to process that. So, and they also caught 500 gallons too before they got in there too, right?
They did it PDM.
Yeah. So.
And we did have a blockage in one particular area as a result of it, which
That probably will happen again.
yeah,
From that buildup in the lines. There's probably still some more in there.
I guess before we move forward, we want to see if there was anything.
I talked to him earlier. Charlie, you're welcome to speak. Certainly don't have to.
I just want to state that this doesn't reflect our 21 plus years of safe record. We apologize and recognize the issue. I have received the invoice. It's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. We do appreciate
We
it.
know accidents happen, and you've been a great partner with the city, so
Thank you.
It's one of those things.
So I'm gonna make a motion that we go ahead and approve the invoice to submit payment for this.
Second.
Call roll.
Pipla,
Yes.
Sucker? Yes. Ray?
Yes.
Bird?
Yes.
McGinn?
Yes.
Stein?
Yes.
Mormon?
Yes.
Okay, then the other item was the wastewater plant UV disinfection project option 1, and Dan?
Thank you, Ray. So this is for our wastewater treatment plant. We're looking at, required by DNR to install a disinfection system, and we're looking at the ultraviolet system. We're working through that design right now. We've come up with 2 different options. There's been some conflicts because of some of the piping of the plant, and we've come up with 2 different options to address that. We're calling them option 1, which is the one to the north, in the red there you can see, and then there's one to the south. We are recommending the option number 1 because it has some shorter piping, and that allows us to keep the plant operational. So that's very important to us. So both of these options are within the project budget. We're just addressing some piping problems with these, and both of them address the problems. It's just that we prefer to go with option 1. We presented these to the utility committee, and that's the option that they landed on, and that's the one that we prefer as well. So, if there are any questions, I can take them.
Doesn't this option, Dan, this is the one that we can keep the plant operational, right?
Exactly.
The whole time.
And that's very important.
That's the important, otherwise, the other one, we would have had to shut it down. So, yeah. So,
What's the cost?
Well,
I mean, without the CDBG, I mean, for option 1, what's the estimated cost?
if you scroll up, there's a sheet. There it is. So, yeah,
It's actually
the
less.
first column is our project budget in the red. So option 1 is 1.422.
Yes.
Okay. And then the other one is slightly less, but we can't keep the plant operational. So that's why we want to do a option 1.
And it's better set up overall.
It is. I think so. It's a better use of the space.
Didn't you mention there's another grant or something you were going to pursue?
Oh, yeah. Actually, we received word today about that. We just received word today that we were successful in getting this grant. This is a community development block grant funds.
Nice.
It comes through the state. We were able to get the maximum that we applied for, which is $600,000. So that'll really help with funding this project.
What was the price tag that we were looking at originally?
Well, the total project cost, including design and construction inspection, construction was 1.6 million. This is just for construction.
Before we did the I&I and all that stuff, it was a lot higher than what.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
We did well over 2 million. Yeah.
So the committee did recommend option 1, and I would make a motion to approve that.
Second.
Call roll.
Sucker? Yes. Ray?
Yes.
Bird?
Yes.
McGinn?
Yes.
Stein?
Yes.
Mormon?
Yes.
Pipla?
Yes.
Thank you. Economic Development Committee, great.
On your agenda, you'll see in your packets as well, a bill from the state auditor's office for the request that was done a couple years ago by the mayor for an audit of the county historical society. Bill, you want to get a little recap of it?
Sure, a letter was sent by the mayor 2 years ago to have an audit at the Historical Society. It took about that 2 years. We got it back here 2 months ago, and so this is the invoice. The invoice originally was $33,000. Councilman Pickla engaged in some conversation with the auditor's office down at the state, and ultimately that invoice has been reduced from $33,000 down to $20,000.
when I asked for that audit, though, it was the previous auditor was in place at the time, and there was never any talk of the cost.
And that was part of our discussions. In the meantime, I think the report itself justified all the concerns and actions of the Historical Society that prompted the request. Also, like the mayor stated, in the process of going through this investigation, there was a change of administration. Auditor Sand came in and took office. And then there was, of course, a traditional shifting of staffing and everything else that goes with it. So we're looking at almost 2.5 years for this to come through. They were fully cognizant of everything that had happened before going through the process and the discussions, and they did lower it to 20,000 flat fee with no conditions or anything else.
I guess the only question that I have is, was there a fee that we were not told of when Bozeman was the auditor? Was there a fee schedule for these things that we were not told? I mean, we weren't told about it, but was there one in place? They just didn't tell us. I don't know that.
Normal process is that the request is billed process unless it's an audit called for by the state or an agency like that. So in this case, with the transition in the long time frame, there's just a lot of areas where the record isn't clear, to be fair. So,
well, I'm glad we got the answer that we needed to clarify, but I'm not sure I would have been $20,000, much less 33. Get that answer. And we're going to pay more for this than we give them. I mean, this makes,
yeah, I know. And the discussions were constructive and heated at times. I'll just say that. The thing about this is that it's a 20,000 flat fee. The records are ours. We have copies of it. We can move forward with the Historical Society. However, I am going to suggest that we don't allow any requests from the Historical Society for hotel motel this upcoming year. That will offset the cost of the 20,000 that we're spending now out of our reserves to pay for this. So that will just be an offset for 1 year, and then the following year they can come in and as normal and requested, and we can all get through this nightmare together.
So this is money that was not budgeted for, so we'll take budget and Andre will pay it out of some account. So maybe a budget in it at the end of the year. So we would need a motion if you so desire to approve payment of this.
Do you have any other option?
No options.
You got to pay the bill. So.
The bill is due, yes, and as the requesting agency. And quite frankly, I think it stands to the reason that if you remember correctly at the time frame, there was a lot of community opinions on why this was requested, and the mayor and the council members at the time were the only ones that stood up and did it. So I think that speaks that the city took the charge and we did the job and we got the answers that everyone was needing. And now everything's moving forward, the new board, new staff, everything else, volunteers. But that wouldn't have happened, I don't think, unless we had done this. So I think it's just the cost of being the elected officials that we are.
I move we make the payment to the state auditor's office.
Ray,
Yes.
Bird,
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Steins,
Yes.
Mormon.
Yes.
Sigla.
Yes.
Stecker. Yes.
One other thing, if I could, sir. Council Pickup, you mentioned about them not being eligible. Do you want us to send them a letter to let them know, or how would you like us, staff, to handle that?
I would like an official letter so that way they know ahead of time so they don't come into January. Also, just to be fair, if they have any questions, to direct them to any of us. That way they know exactly what's going on as well. So I've been assured by the auditor's office that this is the only bill, there's nothing else. And then after this point, they will resend the receipt so that we'll have it for our auditing and budgeting. Any other questions?
Okay, all right, we're good, thank you.
Second thing, some better news on this front. We've posted our city economic manager position. It's on the city website, Career Builder, Iowa League of Cities, several other job seeking, and it will be open until September 30th. So that is posted and moving. That's all, Your Honor.
Thank you. Okay, building official, Ed Higgins.
Thank you, Your Honor. On the agenda tonight, we have a request from Zach and Lisa Wiesbro at 1639 Hancock. They've made a request to vacate Outlot S in the Gulf Estates subdivision. For some of the council members, you may recall that this request was made back in 2016. The Planning and Zoning Commission made a recommendation to approve, and the City Council denied the request at that time. Outlot S is actually an extension of South Jackson from about Hancock Drive down to Crestwood Drive. The roadbed was built up during the development of that subdivision, so you can tell there should be a roadbed there at some time. P&Z went back and forth. They had a lot of discussion on it. One of the biggest concerns that the members came down to is they feel like there's going to be a road there someday. Staff at least wanted to maintain utility easements for the property, so that if we need to extend water or sewer, we would still have the right to do that. But after discussion, Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend to deny the request. I believe we have Zach on here as well. I don't know if he would like to speak.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. Yeah, I requested this a couple of years ago, and the basic premise that I bought the land under, it's a 3.75 acres, and it's really not worth a whole lot without being able to access that road, or not road, but just the buildup, because it kind of sits in a bowl and it's really deep. And if you look on the beacon, it doesn't really do it justice, but there's quite an elevation drop in there. And without the ability to put my house up to where they built it up, I think it was partly for the pond off the golf course, then I'd have a big difficulty in being able to build anything out there or do anything with that property that I bought. Gosh, I can't remember when I bought it now, but that's one of the biggest reasons why I would like to be able to have access to that, so I can actually build something out there, as opposed to kind of leaving it sit in, it's kind of like, almost looks like a CRP lot. It's what it looks like now, but it's really would be very, very difficult to build anything on that without tons of dirt and lots of tiling and some of that thing. And that's what I wanted to talk about, is that. And the couple of other points is, you know, the people that I respect their opinions of had told me over and over that there's probably never going to be a road there. And even if there was, the people on Crestwood would have to, they would be pretty upset, because they would have through traffic on that road. Same thing with some of the folks on Southview Court with the townhomes and on that southeast side, and they would have the traffic moving through that area. So that's kind of what a couple of my points were as far as that goes.
Zach, this is Holly. I'm just wondering, what would your intention be? And perhaps Ed can tell us also what, since you're here. Would you drive down Crestwood and turn into your driveway? Or can you explain what that plan would be?
Yeah, I had it up on paper, and then what I would probably do is go off of Crestwood to build my house on that side and stay off an entryway to Hancock. And I know that, you know, the school plan is that throws a little monkey wrench into the whole thing. But once again, I've been told and by many people that, you know, the city's probably never in my lifetime going to pay for a road, how many millions of dollars that is, to go from Hancock to Crestwood, as well as anger a lot of those residents in having that to become a through road.
My only concern with this is we don't know exactly what the school is gonna do. We do not. That's the problem. That's a problem. Not knowing.
We don't even know if the school would ever pass anyway.
Well, but I don't know, that landmark says, huh?
I know that it would go to Hancock, but it wouldn't necessarily have anything to do with going south.
Well, I don't know, since they haven't done a DOT study, who knows?
But the current proposals are all going to the Hancock
Right.
or Dexter.
But that's a huge amount of traffic down that one street, too.
That's what I'm concerned about. If they do it and it meets up, that would alleviate a lot of pressure.
That's what, that,
But that would be something that we would have to pay for anyway,
right.
which I don't know if that would be,
I'm assuming this is gonna be just one single dwelling, right? It's
One home.
4 acres,
One home.
one home.
So we're looking at the lot to the right of the indicated.
On the south side, down there by Crestwood. He wants to put it over the right of way right there.
Here, but I think it includes this whole 3.5 acres.
Ed, can you reiterate, I don't know the recommendation was to deny from P&Z, but could you reiterate what their discussion was that came to that conclusion?
More than anything, they felt like not being able to predict, even beyond probably, this council and definitely myself, what's going to happen with that road bed. Do we want to reserve it just in case? They made a comparison of what happened behind Walmart with Edgewood and a couple of those streets back in there that they were not developed and put in until after, well after that first addition was put in there along Kate Shelley. I think the biggest difference here is the amount of homes you can get on that road and who's going to pay for that road when it goes in. But they ultimately came down to they felt like they needed to maintain it in case that road ever needed to be there.
Okay, thank you. Isn't that the opposite of when the P&Z passed this before,
Correct.
correct? Then when
Correct.
it got denied. So now P&Z denies it. I don't understand the difference. What the change of heart was.
But there's no ability to build homes on the other side of that, is there? I mean,
There is, they just gotta move dirt. And then if there's lower level access, I was at that P&Z meeting for something else, and those lots matched everything to the north. So in fact, they're a little bit bigger.
I was
So
looking at
it's-
the water variance.
No, on the right side.
Oh, on the right.
So if you go up, straight up north along South Jackson, those lots are even smaller than the ones that would be on that entire stretch of road. So theoretically, you could put homes all the way down that stretch into Crestwood.
Okay, so I guess I wasn't seeing the picture correctly. I thought he only had that entire slice.
He does.
Oh, he does.
That whole right there.
North to south.
Is that your intention is to only build your home, right?
Yeah, I was just gonna build one home on it. I don't think that, and if they do put a road in there, hey, I'm all for it. And then I'll move dirt, and if they want it developed, we can develop it. But it's so low that, and it's kind of goes up next to that field. It's not really prime development area without tons of work. So I would put my single house out there, and then that's all that would be out there.
Well, I'd like to make the motion to approve it so that we have the opportunity to build a home on it.
You do understand that will deny us that road access. It'll dead end.
Yeah, but he owns all the.
Correct, but if there's ever other home, we vacate that right away, then there's nothing. There's no access for us as a city in the future if there's future development in that area. That entire strip would be vacated.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Yeah, so, they've been saying that they're planning a road there, or no, they're gonna hold out for the possibility of a road there. And like we said before, I don't know, it's one of those things that the people that I respect, their opinions I respect, know that that's probably never ever going to happen. And what I just want to do is I want to build the house on there to be able to, and then of course I'll vacate my house. So if you look at it that way, the city will be getting more money, not spending money on the road. But I understand where you guys are coming from, but I don't think if you talk to those residents on Crestwood that they would ever imagine having through traffic in there, or that they were, when they bought those properties, they would expect traffic to go by their houses in that area. Thank you.
Yeah, this is Jim Robbins. Usually when we vacate a right of way, we give one half to each side. Is that, are we proposing something different here?
It is not. We would ask each side if they want to be a part of that vacation. They have the option of being a part of it and obtaining one half of whatever it is we're vacating. So that would still be the case here.
So have they been notified at all?
They have. The golf course has, yes.
And do you know what their position is?
I have not heard anything back from them.
All right, thank you.
There's a motion. I apologize for interrupting, but there's a motion from Councilmember Sticker.
Right. For a second. Fails.
Staff recommend.
Well, is there a motion to deny in a second? Yes, I'll make the motion to deny.
Second.
Okay. Call the roll.
Bird,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Steins,
Yes.
Mormon,
Yes.
Pidlap,
Yes.
Stucker, no, Ray,
Yes.
Our next item is a request to vacate an alleyway between 915 and 917 West 10th Street. The request was made by Sue Schwartz and Bill Ward, which is Sue's son. They live right next to each other. If you've had a chance to look at this, it's an undeveloped piece of property. It's hard to tell where that alley actually is. There has been an objection to the alley vacation request from the future owners of 1014 State Street, which would be just north of where Bill lives. They would like to use this property. It's a retired couple that are there 6 months and gone 6 months. They have an RV and they would like to bring that RV in through this alleyway to park it in the back of their property. Again, this is an unimproved alley. So anything that happens to that alley when he brings that in there is a responsibility of the adjoining property owners, which would be the Swartzes and Wards. The commission again went back and forth and heard from both parties on this. In the end, they did make a recommendation to deny the request.
Well, I've been out there and I looked at it and I can understand what the need is from the new neighbor. And I think there's a little bit of this, you know, people live there for a long time and I get all that. But I don't see any other way that we can get around this, especially typically when we've had these, we don't and approve when we've got objection. I just don't think that we should allow this request, so I'm gonna make a motion that we can.
Sorry, I just want to understand the situation correctly. So with this person's RV, if it was vacated, they would no longer be able to pull in there?
No, they can come in, they can come in, I went up there too and looked at this. They can come in off of Clay Street in front of their property. That alley has been abandoned for 40 plus years. There's nothing there. And there is an Alliant utility pole in the center of this alley.
So
that
they
they
have-
just put in. It's brand spanking new, less than 2 months old, right?
It's 2 months old.
So there it sits in the middle of this alley. Okay? The thing about this is, and there's some things that they had built some outbuildings that encroached on the alley. And they're willing to move those. But there is no way this guy's gonna be able to drive a motorhome down through this easement without tree removal, moving that telephone pole, because if he doesn't move the telephone pole, he's gonna have to drive on somebody else's property to get that motorhome.
So even currently, can't even get through.
No,
But
no,
it can't get through.
and I have
another
pictures, if
area.
I wouldn't have dropped
Just
my
trying to
darn
make sure I
phone today,
understand the lay
I
of the
brought them with me, but I have pictures of it, where the pin placement and stuff is on that property. I mean, it makes no sense to me that he can't come in off the front of his property to drive in that motorhome. What he doesn't want to do is have to back it up. That's what it's about. He wants to be able to drive through. And I get that, but that alley's been that way for 40 years plus, ever since you guys lived there.
And it's soft, like people that are leaving through there, he's gonna rip everything up. I mean, it's just grass that we've maintained. She's had it forever, and then, like I said, we've been there 18 years. And it's never been a big deal. I mean, he's just gonna rip everything up. We'll have ruts in the middle, in the yard that we mow.
And the other unfortunate part about it is by ordinance, they have to maintain it. So if he drives through and tears it up, they're responsible for it. And the city has no intention of putting gravel in there or maintaining that road.
Well, we would have to if we denied it. I mean.
That's not what I-
Basically, it's part of our network of roads. We
Is that
have
right? Is that right, Ed? Would we have to maintain that then?
I don't believe we would if it's approved. Jim?
That's what he told me. By ordinance, I don't think so.
I mean, it's a grass right of way, no different between the curb and sidewalk. The adjoining property owners are responsible for maintaining it. That's usually the way we handle it in other areas of the city.
However, we've also reclaimed grass right of ways in West Boone over by Woodland
Correct, we have.
points that were grown over in grass for that reason, because it was the access in and out for that neighborhood.
And then we end up maintaining
And we
them.
end up maintaining that.
So that means we haul in gravel and gravel it and
Correct.
plow it in the winter time and all that good stuff.
We would have that.
Even though he
We
won't
would
be
have that
there.
option, and it'd be our choice as part of our road plan, yes.
We wouldn't have any obligation to do it, but if we
Yes.
chose to gravel it, then that could be done.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm representing the people that are buying the property. They don't plan to drive in, they plan to back in. There is room there with the utility pole to get the unit, it's a class C. It is 32 feet long, but they want to come in that direction because it is a flood zone. The septic fields are gonna go on the south side of the driveway, can't drive on that with heavy equipment after they're in. And the north side, we don't know what the flooding will cause in the spring for him to drive a heavy vehicle up into there and go in. So at this point, at this point, he wants to be able to back his unit in, it's 32 feet long, and be able to hook up to the electric and the water there, so they can work on improvements on the property. And there is some encroachment there that will have to be moved. He's more than willing to trim the trees because as RVs are, this is a class C, which is the kind of the cab over type. And it's tall, and in order to not ruin his air conditioning units, he will trim the trees and whatever is necessary there, so he doesn't have to pull those things off. And he's willing to maintain that. But right now, he wants to be able to make sure that that alley is there for him to pull into or back into in the spring when he comes back. Because he can't come in that way. We have a way here, the north side of the driveway failed perk tests. They ran into water when they tested it. I don't understand how those tests go, but the south side passed. So that is where the fields will go for the septic tank when it's installed. So that's their plea, is to not allow that to be closed at this time. I have pictures here if anybody cares to see, exactly, but he knows that he can get his RV in there easily, past the post, electric post.
I don't think it's a question, he can get it passed, I think to do it, you'd have to go off the right of way. To other private property on one side to do it. But my question is gonna be is that's Drainage District 137, which they just done a ton of work on. So has there been any flooding since that work's gone through?
I understand the last year it didn't flood, we had a very dry year, and they didn't perfect. If they ran into moisture down there, they couldn't do it, so they had to move to the south side of the driveway in order to get a good perk test there.
But they are talking about putting dirt on the north side.
I don't know what they're gonna do there, they plan on putting a garage there, so there'll be a little bit of grazing, but I don't think they will go up. I can't imagine that would ever happen.
Could they park it there?
They haven't parked it there, they parked it at my house before.
No, when they build a garage.
Oh.
When they build the garage there and they raise that up.
Yeah, eventually, I don't know how that will, until we know.
Right.
What the weather's gonna bring in the spring with water and snow and everything, so. Can't make that statement.
So my question is that right now, this is just a temporary solution this person your family wants to use to get through, just to guarantee access.
I'm sure at least 2 years, because it'll take that long to do the work they want to do, so. I don't know. And her original petition was to take half of the right of way, but Ed Higgins told us at the zoning and planning meeting that they don't ever cut one of those right of ways in half, either oppose the whole thing. And she wanted to take it long and narrow behind, and then he says that's never done, so, you know, he can get through there if there's already.
We never said that we would, when we requested it, both sides, we never said we would stop somebody from going through there, but we don't want it torn up. We mowed it for 40 years, so. And then if they request it, will they have to take it on through to 12th Street? If they request an alley, then they have to go clear through, which would affect the farmer that's north of us. If they request an alley, but when the city, when they have to go all the way through it now.
Again, not to contradict, but they would pull in the spring and pull out in the fall. You're not going to be going back and forth to doing damage to what the right of way is now. It's rather high because it's almost as high as the house, and the house has not flooded. So the property goes when they're going up this way to the house, and the right of way goes that way, and it's as high as the house from what I can tell. And so I think it's solid ground there, and then pull in, back in, spring, hook up, leave in the fall.
So Ed, was this what was discussed in P and Z? Is this pretty much what was all talked about, and this is what they based their decision to deny on?
Yeah, for the most part, they felt like there was precedent set previously. If there was objection to an alley vacation or a right-of-way vacation, that they felt like they had an obligation to deny it. I can't completely agree with that. I know it has happened, but that was their biggest reason for denying it.
Hey Ed, this is Greg. If we deny this and they can come and say they work on something for 1 year to see it, because if it's access in the spring and then access in the fall and it works, there's no reason to vacate it. There's no reason to put any money into it or anything, right?
Correct.
So if we deny it, they can always come back if this doesn't work and they can't work it out, to come back to us and say, we need to solve this, right?
They can, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, based on that, I'm going to make a motion to deny.
Second.
Hold on.
McGinn,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Mormon,
No.
Yes.
Stecker, yes, Ray,
Yes.
Bird,
Yes.
The next item on the agenda goes hand in hand with this request for a public right-of-way alley vacation request. The application fee is $400. That has been paid by the wards and by the sources. They have made a request because it was denied at the Planning and Zoning Commission and it has now been denied by the council. They are making a request to have that $400 fee refunded.
I think due to the circumstances for this and the fact that we may revisit this in a year or two, I'd like to have the refund of $400.
Second.
All roll.
Stein,
Yes.
Mormon,
Yes.
Pickla,
Yes.
Stecker, yes, Ray,
Yes.
Bird,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Okay, our next item is a request to rezone the property at 1804 West Mamie from R1, 1 and 2 family residential to A1 agricultural district. Verlin Potts has bought this property. You know Verlin, he's got a history with horses. He's been around them a good part of his life, and he has some still he would like to maintain on that property. There is plenty of room where he's at. Adjoining property owners and a public notice were sent out. We actually received 3 letters from the neighbors in favor of granting the request. P&Z made a recommendation to approve it. Staff would make a recommendation to approve it. We would request that it be approved for A1 agriculture for horses only. Otherwise, it opens it up to everything, including pigs, chickens, et cetera, anything you can think of on farm. So we would ask that it just be for horses.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All roll.
Mormon,
Yes.
Pickla,
Yes.
Stecker, yes, Ray,
Yes.
Bird,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
The next item is another rezone request. This is at 316 Harrison. The rezone is from M3 multifamily residential to C2 limited commercial district. Cyclone car credit at 304 Mamie is adjacent to this property. This property on Harrison sits right south and borders the Cyclone car credit property. There is a house on the property right now. I believe there's an agreement or it's in the works with the fire department to use this house as a training site at some point, I believe within the next couple of months. Justin may be able to comment on that. The fire department plans on using this for a training event. It would be, the house would be taken down and then the site cleaned up. Cyclone car would then pave the area and use it as an expansion of their car lot. The Planning and Zoning Commission made a request to approve the request and staff did as well.
I would add just one thing that Dave Age is working with the owner on this property as well for our 75-25 program for demo. The house that met our requirements that could come down. And part of that agreement from the city standpoint of entering this with them, that we would pay 25%. He's required where the house is put in a large concrete parking lot as part of the project. So it will be, some of it will be white gravel, but most of it will be a concrete parking lot. And some other requirements in the agreement that Jim drew up. Thank you.
Move we approve.
Second.
All roll.
Pickla,
Yes.
Stecker, yes, Ray,
Yes.
Bird,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Mormon,
Yes.
Our next item is a request from Emily Gravy. Her and her dad own the property just across the road from this car lot that we just talked about at 313 Harrison. They would like to put up a storage building, just a pole barn type building. That property there is zone commercial, as is the property to the south and to the north, which would be that chiropractor office. They plan on using it for private use. They do plan on putting the 30% brick facing up. Planning and zoning and staff recommends approval.
Make a motion to approve.
Call the roll.
Second? Yes. Ray?
Yes.
Bird?
Yes.
McGinn?
Yes.
Stein?
Yes.
Mormon?
Yes.
Pickla?
Yes.
That's all I have. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thanks, Ed. Okay, next up, Finance Officer Andrea. City Attorney Jim.
No report.
Director of Public Works John Rouse.
Yes, Your Honor. Yeah, jump things real quick. We finally finished our debris pickup today. We finished with Gutteridge and Lakewood Cemetery up there by the Coast Park. We have two pretty good sized piles out there, 22nd Land. One's 215 feet by 225 feet by 13 feet tall. Yeah, that's the Public Works pile that we had contracted there with hauling out. And the other one is the public pile. We have residents go dumping stuff. It's 80 foot by 85 feet by 13 feet tall. So we got some pretty substantial piles out there. We did some calculations. There are 26,750 cubic yards of it. So it is matched. I mean, it is tight. There's no pockets, no nothing. It's pretty tight. So I talked to Lance Quaker, the emergency management guy. We're about 2 weeks out from getting the tub grinder in here for the state bid to grind it all off, weather permitting. So it's going to fluctuate. Who knows? That's his guesstimate. With that being done, today we started back with normal potholing. We took the baskets down because they were dying. We had the street sweeper out. Got a couple, 3 or 4 holes that were in the streets before the storm hit that we're trying to fix right now too. So mowing and all that stuff's getting back in the roofs. Any questions? So McCo's is done. McCo's is cleared out. All the debris is picked up. We saw some hangers and some issues back into the back of the circles, and we throughout the city when we have some issues. But right now we're pretty good. We got everything that we can haul off. Right now, and also we're going through and sort of picking the trees that are hazardous, storm damage hazardous, that we got to go through FEMA to get removed. And then we got the contracted parts that are big trees, and the ones that are smaller that we can handle that we're gonna have listed on as well. So I got to get with Andrea. We got to see how we're gonna pay for all these 160 trees we got marked and take down.
How many?
100. We had 60 on the contract removal list and 100 for public works or park urban forestry. And that's along with the 98 ash trees that are coming down that are dead. So we're gonna lose a lot of trees. That's not on the contract down there yet. Say what?
Pretty well. I know.
We're gonna be losing a lot of trees. So
I know I told you this before, but I have not heard so much praise from the community for what Public Works did with this cleanup.
Yeah, that was a good.
I've heard it so many people. So
it's a good effort. I mean, we really, it was tough and it was a bad situation, but we got through it. So I'm doing a good job. Thank you. Thank you guys for all your work.
JR, is there any way we can maybe water the green space like once a week? Some water on that.
On the grass?
Yeah, Kenny from Spring Green, been jumping me about it. Can we? That'd be great. Thank you.
So it's hard trees or something. Those ones.
Yeah, exactly. Not every day, just once a week would be good.
It'd be good for the trees and
the
hospice plants up there as well. So you don't fix them.
That'd be cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it. Thanks.
Okay, next up, City Engineer Dan.
Yes, Your Honor. Just real quick, we've identified a second source of funds for our wastewater treatment plant to do the disinfectant project. We were successful with the community development block grant funds, and now we've identified some funds here for the drinking water treatment financial assistance program. It's, like I said, it's a separate pool of funds, and the terms make it look like we should have some ability to get some financing for this also. So we've got the grant ready to be submitted. It's ready for your approval.
Make a motion to approve.
Call the roll.
Ray?
Yes.
Bird?
Yes.
McGinn?
Yes.
Stein?
Yes.
Mormon?
Yes.
Pickla?
Yes.
Beckman? Yes.
Public Safety, Chief Adams.
Well, for the first year between, we've had it during rain, snow, sun, wind. We're going to cancel this year's fire department open house. just with everything going on, and especially in the school system, we just don't really know where everything's going to be. And so we're going to do some type of virtual online deal and try to work our public education through that way. But it stinks. We reach a lot of people. We have a good partnership with Fairway that started back when Fred was there, as a partnership to help provide the food for that meal. But we just thought it was in the best interest to move on until next year. Thanks.
Chief Legal.
No report here.
Okay. City Administrator Bill.
I don't have anything.
Number 6, consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that you'd like to remove and discuss separately? If not, I need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Call the roll.
Bird,
Yes.
Lincoln,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Mormon,
Yes.
Pickla,
Yes.
Stecker. Yes. Ray.
Yes. Okay, number 7, ordinances. A, third reading 2262, ordinance to allow the city of Boone to adjust the water drainage utility rate from $1.95 to $3, chapter 100.057.
Move to approve.
Second. Call the roll.
McGinn.
Yes.
Stein.
Yes.
Mormon.
Yes.
Pickla.
Yes.
Stecker. Yes. Ray. Bird.
Yes.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Call the roll.
McGinn.
Yes.
Stein.
Yes.
Mormon.
Yes.
Pickla.
Yes.
Stecker. Yes. Ray.
Yes.
Bird.
Yes.
Okay, B, third reading 2263, ordinance to allow the city of Boone to establish additional parking regulations and stop sign locations, code sections 69.08 and 65.02.
Move to approve.
Call the roll.
Stein.
Yes.
Mormon.
Yes.
Pickla.
Yes.
Stecker. Yes. Ray.
Yes.
Bird.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Move to adopt. Second. Call the roll.
Mormon.
Yes.
Pickla.
Yes.
Stecker. Yes. Ray.
Yes.
Bird.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Stein.
Yes.
Okay, number 8, mayor's comments. Real quick, I just want to thank the Iowa National Guard. I did a send-off a couple weeks ago, I guess it was, sending troops to Kosovo. And they're always very polite. They love the partnership they have with the city. And so we got that send-off done. It's kind of different. There's no public, no friends, no family. That dropped troops off in the back. Everybody come in. When they got done, they got on the bus and left. It was just kind of humbling. I mean, there's no kids, no different, yeah. But I want to thank them. Very polite and very good to work with. Number 9, council comments.
Just so everybody knows, the lift is gone from the green space. So if you haven't taken a look up there, go take a look. It looks really good now, the lift out of there.
Any other council comments? Any public comments for items not on the agenda?
Yes, Your
Yes.
I'm here, Fred Grimer, on behalf of Boone County Freedom Rock.
Yes.
Even though it sounds like quite a bit of the meeting. I didn't realize all that was going to happen tonight. But I just want to thank the city council and the Boone City Parks Foundation assisting in the financial side of it. But the Boone County Freedom Rock and the money that the council voted to give us, it's done.
Beautiful, that's great.
100%. Very happy. We're still selling a lot of pavers. And that'll probably continue for a couple of years. The handrails were installed last week, and there's nothing else for us to do out there.
A lot of comments on it.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Thank you. The visitor log that's been out there, I think about 75 people have signed it since September 2nd, and they're from all over the state. So that's great to see.
Oh, yeah.
And I know the veterans really appreciate it, and everybody who's out there on those pavers are veterans. Obviously, they were out there protecting all our freedoms for many, many years. Some of the pavers go back to the Civil War veterans. So it's a great thing for Boone, and just appreciate your participation, and
Thank you.
the money really helped. So thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thanks.
Good job, Fred.
Okay, number 11, I need a motion to go into closed session as authorized by chapter 20, section 20.173 as amended in the Code of Iowa from the Boone County City Council